Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today I have a little bit of a different video for you. I'm going to be making a ring today, and it's going to be a ring for my wife for Christmas. I'm going to attempt to make a ring that's kind of centered around her birthstone and our kids' birthstones. I've been thinking about doing this for a while. I sneakingly got her ring size back last year actually. I kind of figured I would try to do this for Christmas. So I know what a ring size is. I ordered the ring blank, and I'm going to do an inlay ring. I know what the materials I'm going to use are. I'll go through those here in a minute. I'm going to take you through the process as I go through this, and it's going to be a lot of decision making on the go. I have a kind of a basic plan of what I want to do, so we'll work it out from there. But for now, I'll show you what the materials we'll be working with here. Here's the ring that I'm going to use. This is a tungsten ring blank that I purchased off Amazon, and the concept that I'm going to do is, like I mentioned before, it's going to be a birthstone ring. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this ring into 4 quadrants. And each quadrant will be devoted to one child. So their birthstone will be in this quadrant. However, I'm going to create a base layer around the entire ring that's going to be infused with my wife's birthstone and my birthstone. So the concept is, the entire ring is me and my wife together, and all 4 quadrants have our children kind of branched off. So that's the idea. These little dots here, I've already divided the ring precisely into 4 quadrants. I'm not sure about colors yet. I'll get into the materials that I'll be using here right now. Garnets are my wife's birthstone, so unfortunately, I didn't have time to get proper garnets. I had this stock piece of garnet mica schist, and I'm just going to try to liberate some of these garnets. There's a ton of garnets in this little sample. I have a piece that broke off already, and a piece of garnet fell off there. You know, there's little pieces in there. There's gigantic crystals. I'm going to try to harvest some smaller crystals if I can. I'll show you guys how I do that. That's what I got the big old screwdriver and hammer for. I'm going to do a little surgery on this garnet mica schist. I've got all the birthstones here. My wife's birthstone and one of my son's birthstones is the same. It's the garnets. But here I have some sapphires, which is one of my kids' birthstones, and then I have some ruby and some emerald. So some really nice gemstones to go into the ring. And my birthstone happens to be diamond, and I have some medium grade rough diamonds here that for the most part will be used as a sparkling effect, I guess, for the base of the ring. So those are the materials. I also have some glow powder here, which I'm going to incorporate into the ring, probably as the base layer around the entire inlay channel. And as you can see, it's green, which is my wife's favorite color. So that's what we're going to be looking at in the dark. And yeah, that's going to be basically the concept of the ring. Again, I need to figure out what I'm going to mix the glow powder with. I have to mix it with a pigment. I don't want it just to be white. I just don't think that would be a very attractive looking ring for this ring. So I need to come up with something that's going to kind of pop. So I need to give it a little more thought. Haven't decided yet what color I'm going to use for the base of the inlay. As I work, I'm going to grind up the garnet here in a minute, think on it a little more, and I'll come back to you. So let's get started on that garnet. Okay, so I've broken up that garnet mica schist, and I've gotten these small garnets out of it so far. You can see some of the matrix material still attached to some of these, but these garnets, some of them need to be broken down a little bit more to fit into the ring channel, but I'll do that with my hammer later. But this should be enough to get us going on the ring. I got some larger crystals here too that came off of these are fully intact garnet crystals. Some nice big ones actually. And I might throw those in the tumbler or try to clean them up a little bit better, get that mica off there. Actually, I came up with a really good idea for the inlay. So as I was taking the garnets out of the mica schist, I ended up getting a lot of the mica, these little tiny pieces of flakes of mica falling off, and it got a really nice shimmer to it. And I think that this material would be really good in the inlay channel. So instead of using a pigment with the glow powder, I'm going to use this and mix this in with the glow powder and create kind of like a mica sheen, kind of a gold color, and infuse that into the ring inlay all the way around the channel. So that's what'll form the base layer around the channel before we divide up the ring into quadrants and then put in the individual birthstones. I think that's going to be a really good idea. I think that's going to work well. Plus, I think with the garnets in there and the diamonds, I think it'll look really sharp as a kind of like a base layer for all the bigger sapphires, rubies, and emeralds to sit on top of in the different quadrants. So I think that's going to work out really well. So I got enough here to mix up. So I'm going to mix that up now with the glow powder, see how it looks, and then we'll get on to making the ring on the lathe. One thing I was struggling with was figuring out how I'm going to have a nice hard divider between each of the quadrants for the kids' birthstone sections. And I think I figured it out. I have this carbon fiber blank that I'm going to cut a sliver off, and I'm going to try to just like have a little 1 meter thick sliver that spans the channel, and I'm going to have that be the divider for each quadrant. This stuff's actually kind of expensive, so I'm just gonna hopefully just use a little edge of the rod here. Hopefully that's all I'll need, and then go from there. So I'm gonna work on that now. Okay, I got all 4 carbon fiber pieces in place perfectly, and they are responsible for dividing up the quadrants for the birthstones. So I'm ready to put this on the lathe now and start on each quadrant, and we'll add the base layer. So here I'm just putting a little bit of thin CA adhesive down so that the mixture will stick to the first quadrant. Now in retrospect, I can tell you that doing it this way was probably a mistake, doing it quadrant by quadrant. I should have waited to put the carbon fiber pieces in after I put the base layer down. What ended up happening was when I put the thin C8 adhesive down, it actually ran under the carbon fiber. It has capillary action, so it gets into all the tiny spaces, and it actually ran around the ring, and it built up the layer of CA, so it actually caused problems in later quadrants as I was building them up, as you'll see. Here I'm placing the tiny pieces of diamond and garnets that represent my wife and I manually, so that it just gets spread around more evenly. And this is the emerald quadrant, so I'm placing these emeralds in manually as well. I want them to be spaced out. I don't want it to look junky and all jammed up to one side. And here I'm just checking my glow powder mix to see if I have enough glow in the base layer, which I think I do. We've now moved on to the sapphire quadrant, and I've placed all the base layer, diamonds, and garnets the similar way I did the first quadrant. And I'm just placing the sapphires manually and then binding them in with some adhesive. And this is the garnet quadrant. Again, just placing them manually to make sure that they're in evenly. One thing I'll mention here from the previous step is that it's very important to keep the diamonds below the inlay channel. Diamonds have a hardness of 9 on the Mohs scale, and it's going to be very hard to grind those down if they're above the inlay. And now I'm on to the ruby quadrant, and I'm placing the rubies manually, same as the previous quadrants. So it's at this point in the ring making process where I made a critical error. I started to put another layer down of the glow powder and mica mixture, thinking I could add a little more glow. What I ended up doing was I ended up covering some of the stones too much, and in the end product they didn't show up as well as I wanted them to. I really didn't need to do that. I just missed out on getting that effect that I wanted. Here I'm building up the ring above the inlay channel the rest of the way with some CA. This is really what I should have done instead of putting that extra layer down of the glow powder and mica. Just using the CA by itself to build the ring up would have ensured I got that depth that I was looking for. Okay, so here's the ring all filled in. The inlay is all filled in with the birthstones and the CA and the base layer. So this ring's ready to be grinded down. You can see it doesn't look like much right now, but once we grind everything down and polish it, hopefully I got the look that I was going for. One thing I will say is that these stones are up above the inlay channel, so it's going to take some serious grinding because these stones, sapphires, rubies, emeralds, they are very hard. You know, Mohs hardness of around 6 to 7. So I need something that's going to be able to grind it down easily. Sandpaper is just not going to do it. So I have these diamond burrs. I have one attached to my Dremel right now. So I'll use that to do the initial grinding. But once I get down close to the channel, the inlay channel, I don't want to use this because I don't want to scratch the tungsten. This will scratch the tungsten up and tear it up. So once I get close, I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to switch over to coarse grit sandpaper, which I have this for. And then we'll finish it off that way. It might be a long process to do, but we'll see how it goes. I think the final product will be worth it. But anyway, like I said, this looks kind of gooey right now, but that's just the CA that I brought above the inlay channel. So once I get this grinded down, it's going to look, there's going to be some depth to it, and it's going to have like a, a semi-transparent look, hopefully. So that's the look I'm going for. Let's go ahead and start grinding this thing. The process of grinding this down with my diamond burr took about 20 minutes. I kept the diamond burr wet at all times, and I was checking the surface of the ring often to make sure I wasn't getting too close to the tungsten ring with my diamond burr. Once I was about a half a millimeter or so above the inlay channel, I switched over to the sandpaper drum. Finishing it off with the sandpaper took about 30 minutes. So here's the ring. It's all grinded down now, flush to the inlay. There's one small issue, and it's right here. I'm not sure you can see that. Right there. You see that little bump? That is a diamond that made it above the inlay. And it's on the, I believe that's the emerald. This is the emerald quadrant. And there's a lot of diamonds in there. They're all flush, but this one diamond right there, that one right there, I need to grind that one down with the diamond burr. So a little bit of work left to do on that. But for the most part, there's a couple little spots here too that are high still. The ring right now is looking pretty dull. This is dry. I'm hoping once the polish gets put on it, it'll pop a little bit better, but right now it's kind of looking blah. Anyway, it's not turning out how I had hoped. But again, I'm hoping that once it's polished, because right now the gemstones are kind of just, they're not polished, they're looking kind of rough, so hoping once I get it polished, it'll pop a little bit better. But right now, that's the ring. I'll go ahead and grind that diamond that's above the inlay, and then I'll get to polishing it. So let me see if I can go improve this thing. Okay, so I got that high spot out. Now we're going to go on to polishing. I'm going to polish this on my high-tech diamond flat lap, just because this is a tungsten ring and my polishing wheels won't really damage the ring that much, so at all actually, but it'll polish up the bits inside. So let's see how we do with that. I'm going to start with the 325 grit, move my way up to 3000, and then a 14,000 grit polish. Hopefully it will turn this ring from just blah to bling. So let's go try. Okay guys, so this is the final product. The ring is finished and it's all shined up, polished. This is the emerald quadrant. This is emerald mixed in with the little tiny garnets for my wife's birthstone, and the emeralds are for one of my kids' birthstones. And there's some diamonds also in there that you can see. I was not happy with this before I polished it, and then after I polished it, you started seeing some depth to the ring. So it's still not the best. It's not really what I was going for, but it's growing on me. So that's the emerald quadrant. This is probably my favorite one. This is the sapphire quadrant. The sapphire is really kind of show. They kind of shine in there. Got some diamonds in there too, some garnets, my wife's birthstone mixed in. But that's probably my favorite quadrant there for the birthstone. And as you can see, the carbon fiber separating each one. Didn't turn out too bad. So this one, this quadrant, I kind of messed it up. I made a mistake here. This is the garnet quadrant. So I had everything inlaid, and then I put a little bit more of that base layer in, and it actually covered up some of the garnets. So there's one big garnet there, but the rest of them you can't really see. So I messed up there. So that quadrant really didn't turn out the way I hoped. And then the last quadrant is the ruby quadrant. Same thing. I covered up everything with a last, when I tried to get that last little bit of layer of glowstone plus the base in there, it covered everything up. There's one ruby that's showing right there next to the garnet, and then there's another ruby there. The emerald quadrant turned out pretty good, and the sapphire quadrant turned out good, but the garnet and the ruby, not so much. But I'll redo this ring. I didn't need that final layer of the base material. But all in all, I'm really happy with the polish. And that, you know, like I said, the sapphire and the emerald quadrants I really like. Like, those turned out really good. So hopefully she can wear the ring top up like that, and it'll look pretty good. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you got any comments, any suggestions, feel free. I'll catch you on the next one.